Thanks for downloading this episode from Teachers Talk Radio. You can find the full schedule and listen back to all our shows at ttradio.org. Enjoy the podcast.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Teachers Talk Radio. Thank you for giving up a little bit more of your time to be with us tonight for a extra special conversation about all things, well, I'm going to say leadership, I'm going to say coaching, I'm going to say life management, I'm going to say, Rachel will say more later, but it's sort of a conversation that's going to encompass a lot of things. But the whole thing is going to be built around Rachel's new book with John Catt Educational, Box Clever, Quadrants to Change the Way We Live and Lead. So I'm really, really looking forward to getting stuck into the conversation. How are you today, Rachel? Okay.
Yeah, doing really well. Thank you very much. Looking forward to this. It's the first time I've properly spoken about the book, so it's an exclusive.
Yeah, I saw you said that. I feel very privileged that I've made the premiere conversation about your book. Yeah, and I've read the book, and it is excellent, right? So, we were having a little chat pre-show, weren't we? I think the book really gets to the point. I think it's something that I can think of other things it sort of reminds me of within the John Catt range, actually, of titles that they have, where it's very digestible for busy teachers and busy leaders and people who want to dip in and out and people who need something that they can really dig into efficiently, right? And you know, and I really enjoyed that about it, and yeah, I took a lot from it. So obviously in an hour or so that you're going to be joining us tonight, we're probably not going to be able to go through the whole thing. So that would be up to you guys out there to go and get the book from the John Catt website, johncattbookshop.com. Is it out now, Rachel? I think is it on pre-order?
I got mine today, which is very exciting. It arrived this afternoon, but I think officially it's the end of May. Yeah. Officially
it's on pre-order still, but you can obviously pre-order it. So if you head over to the John Catt website, johncattbookshop.com, you can use the Teachers Talk Radio discount code to get 20% off Rachel's book. So yeah, if you like what you're hearing this evening, you know what to do. Head over there and check it out. So Rachel, tell us what. Well, first of all, you're a leadership coach, a writer, an author. You're the CEO of Pixel. There's a lot of different things you do. So tell us a bit about what inspired you to write this particular book and why you're choosing to write it and produce it now.
Yeah, great question. So I've wanted to write it for years, really. I've been collecting quadrants for 7 years. I know it's a bit niche, but I just love quadrants. And I think I love them because they're so deep and so simple. And I guess, as you've already alluded to, the whole thing that I like to do in my general approach is to make complex things accessible and simple and quick, actually, because we haven't all got time to read lots and lots of things. And sometimes you just need the nug of the idea. And once you've got that nug of the idea, you can apply it. So I've always wanted to write it, but I didn't want to write this one first because this one is much more personal. I think it's much more reflective. I think in the book, it gives away much more of me. And so I knew I wasn't quite ready to write this one first. So I dived into the other two that I wrote, which I absolutely loved. And this felt like the right time to do this one. And I felt like I was at the right place to do this one. And I think those two things have to come together, don't they? So yeah, so now is the time.
Brilliant. Sounds good. Well, we'll dig into the more personal elements of it a little bit later on as well. I mean, as a framework, how did this idea of quadrants? Because you said you've been into quadrants. I mean, I'm guessing you've been using quadrants yourself for a long while.
Yeah.
Before this came about, right? So, why did you arrive at the place of saying this is a really useful framework to use for, why is this more useful than other frameworks?
Yeah, so I think part of it is I love reading. I'm obsessed with reading. And when I read a book, I'm always looking for things that I can take or things that might go into something different or might be the kind of part of a keynote or some kind of, question that I might ask in coaching, etc. Yeah. And the thing with quadrants is you read a book and there's always a quadrant somewhere in most of these books. but they just reference it as figure 8, and then they say nothing more about it. I'm like, it's such a wasted resource. You've got to put a quadrant in there, but like, please explain it. But no one ever does. They never take it apart. They make 2-line references and then move on. And so I used to start all of these quadrants and think, I'm sure there's more to say about this diagram than they have mentioned. And so that's when I started collecting them and trying to work out what is there to say here. And I think it's just really interesting because the world is so extreme. You're either this or you're that. We see it on X, don't we? All these arguments about you're wrong, I'm right, dig our heels in, fight. And I've never been like that. I don't like that. I love debate. I love disagreement. I love getting different views. But what quadrants allow you to do is look at the extremes and then work out, actually, if that's the extreme position, where do I fit? Where do I need to be? Are there moments when I need to move to one place or another place? And I think for me, quadrants suggest that life and character and leadership is movable. We aren't always the same thing all of the time. Sometimes we need different things. We need to lean into different things. And so for me, quadrants provide a language that I didn't have before to explain where I am, where I want to be, and work out the gap between the two.
Got you. Wow. No, that makes sense. I mean, I hadn't, before picking up this book, I hadn't really seen or used quadrants in that way. I mean, obviously you've seen them, but personally, I hadn't really delved into that. And so it was really interesting for me personally to sort of look into that and start to use a few of them and sort of experiment with them with interesting results. I rarely ended up in the right box.
Don't know, and I guess that's the point. Is you kind of work out what is the right box for me for now, for the moment.
True.
And actually, someone might be in this box, I might be in this box. That's great. That means that we're thinking differently. We can complement each other. So it's more like, where is the right place for me now than where is the right place for me to live forever. Although on some of them, there's definitely a right place to live forever, or at least try to.
Yeah, got you. All right. So each chapter is a different quadrant, more or less, isn't it? So we can't cover them all. So out of the ones you've written about, which ones do you think were sort of especially personal or more challenging to write for you?
I think the ones that have been most illuminating for me is where I've had issues that I've struggled with myself. And so all my books, all 3, including this one, come from a place of finding things difficult myself, or not having a language to explain it, or not knowing where I am and not knowing how I'm going to get where I want to be, and not really finding any roadmap to help me. So all of this is personal because it's my journey too. And it's still stuff that I struggle with. Writing books doesn't make you perfect. It makes you willing to be open about the struggles and to help other people follow the struggles that you might have had and find some liberation occasionally, which is what I hope for. So I think when it comes to quadrants, the one I would say that I've had to do the most work on recently is around where I put my energy. And I would say recently, probably the last 10 years, I've been really working on this. Where my energy comes from, who around me gives me the right kind of energy for me at different times of my life. How I make sure I'm surrounding myself with people who will do what I need at that particular moment. And I think having really worked on that, I'm now in a position in my leadership where I am much more fulfilled, much more content, because I've got the right people around me. And that takes ages to work out, through trial and error sometimes. But I think that one is particularly personal.
Well, it's not that one, is it?
It is that one. No, that's
the
one.
It is that one. It is that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I found this one interesting when I was reading it. I liked the fact that sort of it didn't necessarily say there were bad people. It just said there were people who, require more energy than other people, and therefore it's about sort of balancing your time and energy right around that. So it's not necessarily about the person. I like that. But do you want to? So this is the first quadrant. Those people who are listening to this as a podcast, we will put links to these in the show notes. So if you're listening to this audio, you're thinking, what the heck are they talking about? Well, I have just put a quadrant on screen. I'll put a link to the video version as well in the show notes if you want to watch the video version of this. But the first sort of quadrant we're going to look at, and it's quite helpful for people to see what this book really is all about, because you're getting sort of one of these in each chapter, aren't you? So do you want to talk us through this as a user of this? So, talk us through the story behind it. So you've touched on that a little bit there, but I want a bit more detail in terms of the story behind it, how you would use this, and how you would expect someone else to use it.
Yeah, okay. So the personal story behind this, and it is a very personal one, is that I have struggled up until 2020 when I went into a recovery for people pleasing. I put myself into people pleasing recovery. I had always been a people pleaser and had struggled with notions of humility and people pleasing and serving others. That's what I wanted to do with my life. And wanting to serve others and wanting to be humble and wanting to put other people before myself had always been told of me. That's a great thing that you do. That's really wonderful. And it was, I think, but I had got to the point in my mid-20s where I was giving so much of myself away to anybody who wanted it, serving this one and that one, running this, running that, volunteering here, picking up waifs and strays over there, feeding homeless people over here, like anything I could do, I was doing. And I kind of got to a point of just being utterly exhausted and feeling drained, not just exhausted, just drained of all energy. And asking myself sometimes, like, what is the point of all of this? I'm giving all this out and I feel like nothing is coming back. And I thought that was being selfish at 24, 25. Like, you know, what you want about, Rachel, just get over it. You're meant to be helping people. That's why you're into teaching. And then I kind of realized when I looked at the people around me, I had very few people who were giving me what I needed. And because I was a people pleaser, I just never asked for what I needed. I always kind of grew up thinking you don't ask for what you need. That's like being pretentious and being difficult. So just put up and shut up. Yeah. And I just realized, I think, around 27, 28, 29, then I got hit by a car and broke both my legs and was told I'd be paralyzed. So that kind of shocked me into addressing this, which is, okay, I nearly died. I was nearly paralyzed. I've got to make some better choices for my life. I've got to still serve people. I want to do that. But I need a little kind of panel of people who are my people, who can energize me, who are going to be there through thick or thin, who are going to be the people who, when I try and shake them off, won't be shaken. And so I came across this book. Actually, it's about faith. It's called Restoring Your Spiritual Passion. It's from 1986. But he talks about similar concepts to this. And so I literally went through my friendship group and asked myself, if I have been knocked over by a car, who are the people on this list who are going to be there for me? And I looked at them and there was 20 or 30 people who could never be there for me. I wouldn't want them to be there for me. And there's about 5 who I thought they're the people in my corner. And those 5 remain the people in my corner today. Some of them I've known all my life pretty much. And they're really precious to me. And I think from that moment, I realized I want to serve people. I want to help people. I want to surround myself with great people. But sometimes the energy they take from me, not because it's their fault. I'm not saying they are draining. I'm saying I'm drained by them. So I want to surround myself with people who are lovely, with people who are teachable, and people who inspire me and are therefore really important to me because they help me be more me. And so finally, at the age of 46, I would say I've nailed this now because I choose the people I want near me and I keep hold of them and I'm open with them. And what a difference that's made, not just to my leadership, but like to my life. And I would really encourage people to do that, to make a list and to invest in the friendships and the work relationships that will help you be a better you.
Brilliant. So in terms of this, that makes perfect sense. In terms of this quadrant then, can you talk us through the different parts then and how, where someone would fit into each part and how they might sort of look at that and say, okay, where am I?
Yeah. So at the bottom right, where we have very lovely people, they are usually the majority. Most people are lovely, delightful, nice to be around, pleasant to be around, great people. So most people in our lives are in there. We also have a few who will ask for more of our time, who we might find very draining. Doesn't mean they are draining. They will be somebody's very important person because, it takes all sorts and different combinations. But I might find working with this person or being in friendship with this person just quite draining. I leave feeling a little bit tired. I leave feeling exhausted. I leave having given out, but not having got much back. It's not equal. I'm giving more than I'm getting. So usually what happens in life is that those 2 boxes have most of the people in. And because those people can take most of the time, we don't have any time left for the very teachable people who energize us. They might not be helpful to me right now. They might be leaders in the making. They might be coming through a succession. There might be people who are willing, ECTs, who are willing to mop it up, really like soak it all up. They might be people who you want to invest in, and they're great, but they're not helpful to me right now, but I know they will be. And we must surround ourselves with those people. That's succession. But the one that we must have and very rarely have is we need about 4 or 5 people in that top right-hand box. Very important people. Mutual, understand, really listen, really hear, really see us, really get us, really back us, really disagree with us, are different to us, are aligned in values and aligned in purpose, but are very different in approach. And when you have those people in your corner, the confidence that you get, the safety that you feel is so significant that you can deal with all the other groups because you have that. The challenge is when you look in your diary and ask yourself, where is the time in my diary for those VIPs? They always get pushed out because you haven't got time because you're dealing with the other 3 sections. And I won't do that anymore. I make those people a priority in my life because we mutually benefit each other and I'm better for it. And so are they. And that's really what that is in that box. It's special, it's precious, it needs protecting.
How do you decide though? Like, you've obviously done this, so how have you decided the difference between like a very important or a very lovely or a very important and a very teachable? Like, how do you make that decision?
I guess they change as well. People jump in and out of these places for different times of your life. You know, if you are, when I was single, it was different to when I was married, to when I've got kids. It's different. And you have different people from different backgrounds, of course. But for me, I've got like a little criteria, a loose criteria for what generally goes in the VIP section. And they are people who disagree with me and will tell me they disagree with me. He will say no. He will say, I think you've got that wrong. I think you overstepped. I think you made a mistake. But who I know love me, back me, believe in me, but aren't going to shy from telling me the truth. These people will tell me the truth. And not everybody will. If you've got very teachable people, they can't tell you the truth. It's difficult. If you've got very lovely people, it's a risk telling you the truth. And I don't want that for my VIPs. I want people to be honest. I want people to be open. I want people to say to me, when you said that, what did you mean? Like, can you tell us more? I want vulnerability. I want openness. I want intimacy. I want transparency. So that you can't be like that with everybody. You can't.
But that works both ways, doesn't it? Because there'll be some people who can't handle.
Yes. Oh yeah. Plenty of those.
I mean, the truth again. There's different, I guess, to further complicate this, there can be different versions of the truth depending on who it is that's experiencing it or seeing it. Yeah. But obviously it's your truth, right? So there can be some people, as you say, who, for you to be able to have a very important person, you're going to have to be able to sort of have a level of vulnerability.
Oh, yeah.
And a level of trust.
Yeah.
And a level of resilience, because they might tell you things that you don't want to hear, or they might challenge your way of thinking, or they might disagree with you.
And if they deserve their place there, they should do all of those things. And if I deserve my place in there with them, I should be all of those things. Like, this is a place, as Brené Brown would say, is coming unarmored. You're not bringing your cynicism there. You're not bringing all your protection of collecting gold stars or wearing armor or hiding with power over instead of power with. In that quadrant, you're open. You are free. And yes, that makes you vulnerable. And yes, it's a risk. Any connection with any human is a risk because people can hurt you. But in that box, you have people who say, I love you, but I've got to just say, I think you made the wrong call there, or I think you said it in the wrong way, or I think that you haven't been clear in your instruction, and I think people are confused. And I say, thank you so much for telling me. There's no anger there because I trust these people. But what a gift that is. And I think with an epidemic of loneliness sweeping the planet, that's the biggest killer of human beings. It's loneliness. It's because I believe people don't have these people. We don't have connections like I'm describing that can keep you going in a crisis. You know, the way that you recover from any kind of illness is you're more likely to recover if you've got these people in your life. And yet when in education, we just squeeze them out because we've got a busy job and we can't go out on a school night and they're not teachers and they don't understand. And I think that's a real shame because we are damaged by that.
I also think it's well, you pretty much nailed it, but I think to have that level, it's more rare that you can find that in a work context. It's than a personal context. Personal context, I would find it easier to think in those levels. Like you said, it's not an angry thing. Well, with a genuine friend that you've known for 20 years, it's much less likely it would induce any of those feelings, because they know you. They know the real you. In a work context, that might be less likely. It's possible. It's going to be less likely. But I suppose you would frame, let's say you had this in front of you, you might say, well, I'm going to look at this purely from a work point of view.
Yeah.
And then start from there. And then obviously it would be contextual then within a work space.
And some of my people, some are personal friends I've known 20 years, who've been with me through singleness, marriage, the car accident, having kids, my parents both dying. They're people who've personally been in my corner. The 3 girls probably online now listening, who've been with me all the time. I also have the equivalent at work. And these groups don't know each other, but they all know me individually. But the people at work I work with are this too to me. And that's why it takes a long time to get to that point. But that is why I find my work so joyful, because I've got those people in my workplace. And I think part of all of this is I am a believer that if anybody met me in any areas of my life, in the shop, at my church, at a conference, in my workplace, you would find the same version of me. So it's not like I'm hiding myself. I am the same person. You'd recognize me. You wouldn't think, oh, wow, she's completely different. I look the same. I wear the same. I'm me for a living. That's what I think leadership is, actually. But when you are talking about the deepest secrets of your heart, the things that you're struggling with, the vulnerabilities, that's not for public consumption. I'll go so far with that vulnerability because I think it's important that you do. And I think it's important to be open. But when you're working something out and it's raw, that's not the time to be sharing that on national platforms or stages or in podcasts, but you need somewhere where it's going. And it's challenging this because, some of these people, we don't have them. We don't know them. We've got to find them. We've got to cultivate them. But it's possible to do that. And when you find them, it's such a gift.
Totally agree with that. Oh, brilliant. Okay. Well, I hope by that little starter, people have a really good idea now about what this book's all about.
Need a smarter way to teach? Wish your lessons had more impact? Eduflix.com. Stream educational films for teachers and students in or out of the classroom. Keep students engaged. No ads. No distractions. Try it free for 30 days at eduflix.com/try. Use code TTR. Get 50% off all orders made before June 1st. eduflix.com.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading.
Right, and how helpful it can be. Just by looking at one of these and thinking about it. And obviously I'm just showing the quadrant. You've got a whole chapter there to explain what it all means and how to use it, right? And at the end of each chapter, there's a little sort of task box, isn't there, where somebody can actually do it, so to speak, using the quadrant, which is quite nice.
Yeah, and at the end so people can annotate them later or photocopy them. Right. And also there's little quizzes all the way through that aren't written by me, they're written by researchers, but I've put those in because I think it's helpful sometimes to go, I don't know what I think about this. Let me do a little quiz and find out. So yeah.
Sure. Okay. Well, another one that we picked out was this one, which I found really interesting. I mean, this one, I love the example that you gave. I can't actually, you're going to have to remind me of it, but
I remember
it was from you. You might not remember either, but it was the guy who, and I looked it up after reading it, the guy who was
Jim
in
Stockdale.
prison. Yeah. So he was in prison in Vietnam. And then, and he obviously came up with these ideas about the people who survived and the people who didn't. I think the premise was basically that The people who struggled were the people who had sort of weren't realistic about hope.
Yeah.
You know, they were a bit silly about it. You know, do you want to talk us through this one?
Yeah, so I live in this constantly. This is my reality. And until I came across Jim Collins in Good to Great and the Stockdale Paradox, I didn't really know. I didn't have words to explain what it was. So I guess I put it down to kind of, I feel really hopeful, but a little bit funny. It's quite difficult to explain it, but this makes it really easy. So in leadership, as in life, there are brutal facts that we just must not ignore. We can't ignore. But we also need to have unwavering hope that things can be different. And actually what the research says is when you have those two things together and you know you can do something, that's what creates optimism. And optimism is a stronger and more solid word than hope. But optimism is what keeps us going. It's what makes us have agency. It's what makes us think we can actually do something about our own lives. So it's really crucial. And so on this quadrant, what happens is if you have no hope at all, or you have unwavering hope, and if you don't see the facts, or if you face the facts, it changes how you lead. It changes how other people follow. So clearly there is kind of a right place to be in this quadrant, which is top right. What we should be doing is having unwavering hope and facing the brutal facts. So we look at our exam results, we look at our Ofsted report, we look at our staffing levels, we look at the staff feedback, and we say, the brutal fact here is people don't want to work here, or this is not good enough, or the results are not where they need to be, or the culture isn't right, or we haven't got the right structure. That's a brutal fact. It's hard to say that. You need your VIPs with you when you're dealing with that. But then what you then say is, but the unwavering hope is we can change it. We will change it. It won't be tomorrow. It won't be next week. It won't be immediate. But if we put a plan in place and we believe we can do it and we face the brutal facts, we can be optimistically realistic. We can work out how we're going to make that happen. And that is the most important place to be as a leader. If you go anywhere else, it causes utter chaos. So hopeless facts is where we face the facts but have no hope. Now, we've seen that work out in politics. It didn't go well for Keir Starmer standing up and saying it's going to get worse. Like, okay, and where's the bit about it getting better? It wasn't there. As the whole nation was like, this is terrible. We didn't vote for this. We want to change. And that's the balance. When you get it wrong, people go, hang on a second, like, this is not attractive. So there's a real issue in hopeless facts. And when you're facing the facts but have no hope, people feel out of control, disillusionment spreads, people don't want to be in your company. It feels brutal in all the wrong ways. So that is a one to avoid. The bottom one, I think, might be slightly worse. They're both pretty bad. Okay. Is where you go, I don't want to see the facts, la, 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 because nothing's ever going to change. So I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to bury my head in the sand. I'm going to pretend this isn't happening. And we do that with physical symptoms. So you have a tummy ache and you think, that's not right. La, 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 don't want to go to the doctor. Don't want to go to the doctor. I haven't got time. I'm going to do it. We'll go at half term. I'll go at Christmas. I'll go at Easter. I'm sure it's fine. And actually ignoring that kind of thing because you think, well, it's fine. I don't want to think about it. I have no hope that anything will be sorted about it can make us feel hopeless. And that's a pretty desperate place to be in. It's when you need your VIPs to pull you out. The bottom one is awful, the bottom right one. Hopeful denial. That's when we have leaders go, it'll be fine. Yay, it'll be fine. I'm sure we're just being a little bit over the top here. I'm sure when Ofsted come in, they'll think it's great. I'm sure the results will go up 25%, even though your staff are going, how? We don't think that's going to happen. And when we get in that box, we start doing the two siblings, toxic productivity and toxic positivity. Like, come on, let's go. It's going to be fine. Go. It's going to be fine. And people hate it. They think you're out of touch. They think that you're being overly optimistic. They think you're lying to them. So we must never be there. It loses people. And if you haven't got followers, you're not a leader. So
a lot of people are there though, right?
Oh, because we're scared. What's driving that is I daren't say this is a car crash. I daren't say it's not going to happen. Because then people might blame me if it doesn't happen. They'll think I'm a doom mongerer. They'll think I'm being cynical. And that's why this is so hard to say it's not good enough, but I believe we can get it better. And here's how. is way harder than pretending. So this box, it is, I think, where lots of people sit, and I'm not blaming them for that. I get it. I've done it myself, but it's not helpful. And that top one is the one where we need to be, where we get into problem solving. I'm going to face it. I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to paint what the future looks like, and we're going to go together. We're not in denial. We're not going to positive our way out of this. We're going to face it head on. And that's courage, right? That's bravery. That's leadership.
Can you tell us about a time when you were stuck in one of these, or sort of maybe it could be someone you've worked with that was stuck, that you do some coaching as well. So talk us through what happens when you're in one of these. How do you change from any one of the three that are wrapped around optimistic realism?
Yeah. So I'll give you a really good example. I always give an example of myself rather than other ones, because even if I anonymize them, if someone's my coach, they'll be like, are you talking about me? So I always give myself as an example. So if we go back to 2020, January 2020, my father has just died. I'm put in charge of Pixel, and I have no idea if everyone's going to leave. That's a brutal fact. The brutal fact is I'm an unknown. The brutal fact is they were following him, maybe. The brutal fact is, will this company even survive? The brutal fact is, do I know what I'm doing? Do I know how I'm going to sound as a leader? Answer, no, I didn't in 2020. It all happened very suddenly. I didn't know what Rachel Johnson sounded like as the CEO of Pixel. That had never been part of my thinking until very recently. So the brutal facts are there. And so you could end up going, oh, it's terrible. Like, I can't be him. Oh, it's awful. What will I? And that's not where you need to be. So what I said was, right, okay, I believe in what we're doing. I believe that the people who are working with us and alongside us in schools and on staff will be patient. We'll see where we're going. I believe that it's more than a person. I believe what we have established is more detailed and more deep than a personality. And I'm going to trust that. But I'm also going to do the work. I'm going to get leadership coaching. I'm going to work out where I am. I'm going to stop people pleasing. I'm going to fix the things in me that I know need to be sorted if I'm going to be a leader worth following. And I'm going to do the very best I can for schools to make sure that I am serving them. And so we went into a pandemic and we flipped the business entirely. Brutal fact, we're a company that works with face-to-face events. Brutal fact, we can't have any. Brutal fact, will anyone stay? Hope, I'm going to flip it. We're going to flip it. We're going to go online. We're going to do interesting things. We're going to be responsive to need. We're going to get in amongst the schools and ask them what they need. We're going to listen. We're going to be responsive. And here's how. And so we moved from what could have been hopeless fact all the way around into optimistic realism. And here I am and here we are 5 years later. So it matters, this stuff, and it works, but you have to go on a journey with it.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. I mean, storytelling plays a bit of a role with it, doesn't it? I suppose, in the sense of the story that you tell yourself. I mean, and other people. But how do you again, it sort of relates back to the first one.
They all link.
Yeah. It's how would you recommend somebody understand where they are? What questions would you ask somebody if they were sort of using this, to sort of check themselves that they weren't sort of letting their own personality or feelings get in the way of this? Because that's something I would do. I sort of very emotional, very sensitive, very overthinking, and I would easily get this wrong. So how do you make sure the check is there, if you like, to say, okay, you've done this, now let's check you've actually could have got it right?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things I think that out this in a way that is not threatening. So the first is, what do you know now that you're going to find out in 6 months' time? And people always know. They always know. And they'll say things like, results aren't going to be what we needed. We're going to get a bad inspection. They know it. So by just asking that question, it helps. The other question is to say, let's imagine we're sitting in 2025. We've got our exam results. It's not what you want. What are you going to say are the reasons for why that's not what you want? And they tell you them all because they know. And so that's a creative way of bringing out the brutal facts. The other way personally to do it is asking people, what is it you fear? What is the big fear? And people will say rejection, failure, not being good enough, letting the side down. Okay, that's a brutal fact. The brutal fact is your fear will be so much in your head that that's all you're thinking about, and it will send you into one of these places, but it won't send you to top right. It'll send you into the rest. So once that's outed, most people really want to work on it once they can see it. Like, I don't want to feel like this. And so then it's a case of flipping the whole thing round and saying, okay, let's imagine you've gone to bed tonight and in the morning you wake up and it's all fixed. You're fixed. It's fixed. What does it look like? And you know what? People can tell you immediately what it looks like. We know this stuff. What we don't have in education particularly is time to get it out. We just suppress and suppress and suppress and then get ill at half term and Christmas. And the reality is, like, we know this. We know it. It's just getting in a room with the right person, facing the fact, bringing yourself into the space where you can be open and safe, and then working out, okay, what's my first step? And sometimes the first step is just sitting down and opening the report that you've not read for 3 weeks, or doing the thing, organising the meeting that you've not had, or having the crucial conversation that you've been avoiding for 2 years. There's always a thing that unlocks everything else. So yeah, that's what I'd recommend.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly good for tackling reality, isn't it? Tackling things that are to sort of processing your thoughts a little bit.
And the reason it's important is because if we don't, these thoughts don't go anywhere. They just ambush you at 2 o'clock in the morning when you can't sleep and you get anxiety. So they're not, when we're being hopefully in denial, we're not helping anybody. We're just pretending. And when we pretend, we get into all kinds of difficulties, because then with our VIPs, we're not honest, we're not open, we're not vulnerable, we're hiding ourselves, and that leads to lots of other things, loneliness being one. So I think sometimes just hearing you say things, saying things out loud, you think, "Ooh, that's what I think."
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's have a look. Well, before we look at another one, thanks to everybody who's watching this live. If you want to get involved in the conversation, you can leave it. If you're watching on YouTube, you can leave a comment. Obviously you can leave a comment anywhere after this finishes, but if you want to actually leave one live and you're watching on YouTube, then you can do. Also drop us a like and a subscribe, obviously, and a huge thank you to John Catt. And again, this is all about, let's remind everybody, Rachel's new book, Box Clever: Quadrants to Change the Way We Live and Lead, which is available through John Catt Educational. And you can get the book at the John Catt website, johncattbookshop.com, and you can use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off. And you can pre-order the book now. It's not quite out, but you're very close to being able to pre-order the book. And we've been through a couple of examples from the book. Let's look at another one, which was this one.
Oh, I love this one.
Which was about identity. So what? Again, let's start with what made you focus in on identity for a quadrant?
So I love this one. I love this one because the more I did coaching myself and the more that I did this kind of work on what do I think and what do I believe and what kind of leader do I want to be, I realized how much of what I think is not actually what I think at all. It's what I've been told, or what other people have told me, or what I have told myself when I was younger. And I carry that with me and it affects me today. And some of that stuff is really good. You know, I'm a hard worker, you know, I can communicate clearly, all that kind of stuff. Great. But there's also some stuff in there that isn't helpful from when I was 5, or, you know, you're not good at maths when I was 6, or you're a bit different, or why don't you swear? Because I didn't swear, still don't, but didn't at secondary school. You can imagine didn't go down very well. And so people would bully me for not swearing and try and make me swear. I mean, ridiculous, really. And I wouldn't give in. I was like, why should I swear just because you want me to? I'm not going to fit in. So there was elements of little Rachel that was bold and brave and risky and stood up. There's also little Rachel who didn't want to cause a stir and didn't want to create a scene. And so you take all of those bits with you. And when you become a leader, you have to work out which bits are helpful and which bits are not helpful. And that's when I kind of thought, how do I work that out? How do I work out what my story is now, what I want it to be, and what my story is going to be in the future? What kind of leader do I want to be? And so I came across this by Marshall Goldsmith, and I just think it's brilliant because it just makes it really, really clear what's going on. So that top left one, programmed identity, is where the future and other people's opinions collide. So that in my background is people saying, oh, I bet you're going to go into politics. I don't want to go into politics. Oh, I bet you're going to be ahead. I don't think I can be ahead. Oh, I bet you're going to write fiction books and write books for kids. I don't really. So all of these things were said about me. Other things less good, some things good, but they're all there. It's my programmed identity. And the thing about programmed identity is you can change it, but it's also blamed. So people might say, it's not my fault. It's not my fault I'm this. My parents said that I should be like this. It's not my fault that I'm a doctor. I was always told I had to be because my dad was. That kind of narrative. So that is what other people say about your future. The bottom one is when the past and other people's opinion collide. So that might be when you're a teenager or when you're at university and you take what people said about you then. In my case, nothing's going to come of all this reading you do, Rachel. Like, you can't keep your head in a book. You've got to go and live a real life, etc., etc. Sometimes in jest, but you take it and it creates this thing in your head where you can't, you shouldn't, you mustn't, you won't. Yeah. The bottom right is your version of that. So how you perceive yourself. So you might have thought, when I was a kid, I was an outsider, or I was a geek, or I was bullied, or I was difficult, or I didn't fit in. Whatever narrative we have, that can still be our narrative 30 years later. And so I went through this quadrant and basically wrote down what people have said about me in my past, about my future, what people have said about my past at the time, what I say about me, even now, sometimes say about me. And then I worked out the top right, which is, okay, which bits of all of that do I want to carry through for the rest of my life? What do I want my identity to be? When I and my future meets, what do I look like as a leader? And I filled that box with how I want to lead. And that in it had words like brave and open and vulnerable and clear and relational and whole and balanced and nuanced, like all of that. So once you start doing that, you go, okay, that's what I'm going to be. That's what I'm going to be. I'm going to get my VIPs to help me be that. I'm going to make sure that when there are things in there like people pleasing and not being able to have a boundary and not being able to say no because I'm a people pleaser, I'm going to deal with that because I'm going to deal with a brutal fact and I'm going to live my life in there. And that's the journey I've been on the past 5 years particularly, but probably a little longer.
Going back to that time, because you said you were like a bit bullied over the not swearing and stuff, and just sort of brought me to the place of, you're now the CEO of Pixel and you've written books and, you do leadership coaching and speaking and so on. Were you always confident?
No.
Right. So how did that transformation happen then?
It's a good question. Really good question.
This stuff does require some confidence to be able to access this.
Yeah.
And then if you started to think about this stuff and you weren't confident, it could sort of, it could either help you or it could sort of be too tough to handle. You got to have maybe not confidence is the wrong word. You got to have a level of, I think we've used it before, vulnerability.
Yeah.
To be able to access. So I'm just wondering, in terms of confidence for yourself, how that evolved for you.
Yeah, it's a great question. So confidence, I think, is an interesting one. So I wasn't always confident. There are moments when I'm still not. So I think that's maybe a separate thing. I think what I've worked on would have been known when I was a teenager as self-esteem. I wouldn't use the word self-esteem now. I'd use the word self-acceptance. And so over the time since I've been little, and I've been on this particular journey a long time, is I kind of worked out probably when I was about 21 or 22 that I wasn't going to outsource my self-esteem to other people. Fact. So, and I think I had done at times. So I'm popular if you think I'm popular. I'm confident if you think I'm confident. I'm okay if you think I'm okay. And I thought to myself, this isn't helpful, because what happens if one day you think I'm okay and the next day you hate me? Does that mean that I all of a sudden am less worth something? This doesn't make any sense. So I started deciding not to outsource my self-esteem. And to this day, it's still a mantra that I use, like, don't outsource your self-esteem. So what I mean by that is confidence comes when you know I can do the hard work, I can change, I can make decisions for myself and I don't have to live the way that I've lived. I've got agency here. And yes, it'll be hard. And yes, I'll have to do the work, but I'm not a victim. I can empower myself. I can coach myself and I can move. And I honestly believe everyone can do that. It is more difficult for some because of the circumstances in which they find themselves. It's why we need to support each other in this. But if you don't do that work, then the alternative is that you write a book like I've done, and then you search Amazon reviews every 5 minutes to check if you're okay, to check if your book is good. And actually, it's okay if some people don't like it. It's okay if some people don't like me. It's okay if people don't like the work that I do. I've not got a problem with that because I think that's really interesting. You know, what is it about it you don't like? What is it about me that you find difficult? I'll catch the ball of whatever you're giving me. I'll examine it to work out if I think the same thing. And if I do, I'll work on it. If I don't, I'll just throw the ball away, won't accept it. But in my 20s, I was far too quick to receive any opinion going. Any opinion. I'll just absorb that. I'll absorb that. And you kind of lose yourself in the process, really. So the way that I manage these days, and I still do all of these things, is I talk to myself, which people say is a sign of madness. It isn't. It's a sign of sanity. But you talk to yourself in the third person. The work of Ethan Cross is really clear on this. So I will say to myself, Rachel, get a grip. You know you can do hard things. You have done hard things before. You know exactly what you need to do. That is not the problem. You just need to get out your own head and get on with it. And that works for me. I come out of it. Or I think in 10 years' time, is the little meltdown you're having now over that presentation going to be a thing you talk about in 10 years' time? It isn't. It's okay. Or I take a fly on the wall perspective and I look back in on myself and go, okay, what do you see? I see Rachel getting anxious over something that's not yet happened and is fretting over what might be and is now paralysed and is not brave, is not risk-taking, is not open or honest. That's not who you are. Come on. So I coach myself to do that. And part of that is having a nurturing voice in your head and not the controlling one that so many of us have, the controlling voice that says you're ashamed of yourself, you're pathetic, you're an embarrassment. When you have that voice going on, that's the first job to do, to minimize that a little and to self-nurture. And although that can all sound a bit woo-hoo, it has absolutely changed my life. And I talk about it to anybody who'll listen, including you. So, and whoever else is joining us tonight.
It's very powerful. It's very true. But it's a process, isn't it? It's not something someone can do. It's something that takes a long time, and often you've got to go through. You've got to go through some stuff to be able to develop or go through the process.
You have, and it's painful and it's difficult and messy. Yeah, and being able to say to people, I'm a bit messy at the minute and I'm just working through it. Like being able to say that to the right people, what a gift.
Yeah. All right. We've got time for one more quadrant. Let's have a look what we've got. So this is...
Need a smarter way to teach? Wish your lessons had more impact? Eduflix.com. Stream educational films for teachers and students in or out of the classroom. Keep students engaged. No ads. No distractions. Try it free for 30 days at eduflix.com/try. Use code TTR. Get 50% off all orders made before June 1st. eduflix.com.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading.
What issues become over time? Talk us through this one. Interesting one.
It is an interesting one. This is from...
I found this actually, from the whole book, this is the one that actually took me the most time to figure out.
Yeah, it's hard, this one. It is really hard. Because you don't see it. That's why it's hard. So I think often, whether you're in business or in school leadership, it doesn't matter. If you're in leadership, you will find yourself facing issues. And I had no categorizing system to work out what was important and what was not, other than urgent and people are getting shouty and I don't think this is important, which isn't very nuanced. And then I found this quadrant. So he talks about how issues initially appear. They're either big or they're small. And then what issues become over time. So they might start off small and stay small, or they can start off small and then grow into massive things. And so the job of a leader and a leadership team, wherever you work in any sector, is to work out what is going on in my leadership right now, in my school. What are the issues? So we have these 4 areas. Clarion calls is we've got to be all in. That's safeguarding, essentially. At the minute, if you're in Key Stage 2 or if you're in Key Stage 4 and 5, it's year 11, 12, 13 and 6. All eyes on them, all in. If there is an Ofsted, you're all in. Like that's normal, isn't it? So it's a significant thing. It's good. It could be massive over a longer term if we don't get this right. All in. The problem is, in education, most of us have everything in there, which is why we're frazzled and burnt out and can't cope, and it's all too much. And that is the reality of many leaders. And I get it. I really get it. There's always going to be more in that box if we're not careful. The others, though, are the ones to watch. So top left is siren songs. So it appears significant, but actually it's going to stay small. So this is the parent WhatsApp group. So everybody on WhatsApp is saying that this school is shocking. Everybody's complaining about this, that, and the other. And we can jump in with our cape and be like, oh no, this is going to get massive. I need to go and respond. I need to go and firefight. And when we get into that, we get lured in like those sirens, getting the sailors to come and crash their boats. We get shipwrecked. We lose time. We lose energy. We lose attention. And it was never going to grow into anything massive. We should have waited and we should have watched. Bottom left is where it's small. It's going to stay small. Things like, in school right now, I bet all of the people watching have a child who's not doing very well, a parent who is cross with you, a member of staff who you are maybe struggling to move into something more helpful. That's normal. And if we spend all of our time just dealing with all the normal stuff, we never get to the things that really need us. So normal noise, don't get drawn in. If you are a leader and you are relying on the normal stuff to get through your day, or responding to need based on email order, top of the inbox gets my attention, we're getting sucked in. And then the bottom right is the really dangerous one. And it's the one we ignore at our peril. This one, whisper warnings, is where things need to be nipped in the bud. So let's take uniform. So we have a new uniform policy. We've been really strict about it. One child turns up without the correct uniform. So it's a small issue. It might stay small. So normal noise, tutor deals with it. Day 2, 2 children come in without their uniform. Day 3, 3. Now we have 50. Now we have 100. Now we have 150. It's gone from normal noise to massive, and we have to nip it in the bud. Otherwise, we're into the top right and it's all in. And we start having clampdowns and blitzes and all of those kind of things. So that whisper warning is where we've got to be careful. The problem is there are people in our schools who know what these things are. They're the teaching assistants, the dinner staff, the site managers, the people, the librarian, the photocopying person, the people who are hearing the whispers, the people in the community. And sometimes in leadership, we're not in touch with them. And sometimes we don't appreciate when they say, I think there's a problem. And we mustn't not listen to anybody. We must listen. And then we work out, where is this? Is this something I really need to worry about or not? And then I would suggest, when you've done this activity, you look at your diary and you ask yourself, where's all my time going? If I'm saying this is a clarion call, where's the time in my diary that corresponds to that need? I think you'll find it's not there. And that is something we might need to pay attention to.
Yeah, no, super. No, and I mean, from a staff point of view as well, I'm sure you've mentioned the sort of policy, the children in a school point of view, but from a staff point of view, of course, like toxic schools and stuff like that, there'd be examples where I guess there might be some sort of cultural things that are sort of, brewing, let's say, so somewhere, and the leader sort of either sort of chooses to ignore it because it might lead to a difficult conversation, or it might be, too tricky to handle, and then it grows.
It grows and it spreads, and there's a clarion call and you've lost it. The thing about this and about toxic cultures, let's call them that, is toxic cultures are led by people. And I have never met a person who says, hi, my name's Bill, I'm toxic, and I don't have any integrity. I've just never met anybody who said that. So what often happens is someone is leading, in their VIP, there's no one who'll challenge them. No one who'll say, Bill, I think you've gone a bit far on that. Bill, the way you spoke to them, that's not okay. And if we are not prepared to surround ourselves with people who will tell us, what happens is that Bill gets further and further removed from what's happening, thinks he's doing a great job because everybody's telling him he's doing a great job. But underneath, we have the rumblings, we have the whisper warnings, we have the corridor conversations. That's what creates it toxic, because you have two layers. You have what they believe is the truth and what Bill thinks he's doing is the truth. Now, Bill's got his own stuff going on. Let's not demonize Bill. Yeah. Bill might have a mum with Alzheimer's and a partner with cancer. And, we don't know what's going on with Bill. But as leaders, if you are going to go into a leadership position, if you already are in one, you are responsible for making sure you have those people who will tell you the truth so that you don't become like Bill by accident, which is the most tragic thing. Tragic that someone's allowed to do that because they haven't surrounded themselves with people who speak the truth. And that's why if I don't have people disagreeing with me, I think I've got the wrong people in the room.
And again, I think that's a good tool for somebody to ask themselves. Sometimes you would have to say, again, personalities come into this in the sense that, the person who is the leader has to be able to genuinely sort of look at it and go, I haven't got any of those people around me. Because in their heads, they might be going, oh, yeah, I've got that.
You can test it.
You know what I'm saying?
These are brutal facts. So when people say to me,
it goes back to that one, doesn't it?
I'll say brutal fact then. Tell me the last time someone disagreed with you and how. Yeah. And you'll find people go, If we can't recall that somebody disagreed with me in the recent past, like 2 or 3 days, I would question, are they there? The other thing is, and it's a real mistake we make in education, I think, probably life generally, is we say, hi, so-and-so, can you give me some feedback? Like, no one is stupid enough to launch into giving someone feedback, especially not if they're paying their wage. Like, it's so open-ended. Like, feedback on what? So the kind of thing to do if you're a leader who doesn't want to end up like Bill is to say to people, I think I wasn't clear in that meeting. I think I made it worse. I think I caused confusion. Did you see evidence of that? Can you give me some examples of where you saw that too? Because you're leading them into giving you the feedback. Otherwise, expecting people who might be our deputies to say, oh, yeah, you really messed that up. Like, we've got to go first with, I think I did this. Did you see it? And then that's how you have people safely, openly disagree. And it takes some courage to do that because we've got to get our egos out of the way sometimes.
Sure. And sometimes you can not do that because you forget to do it. You cannot do that because in the moment, it's not that you're not willing to do it. It's that you forget to do it because you get wrapped up in the situation, whatever it is. And you think, I could have been more vulnerable, or I could have been more open, or I could have, but sometimes you either can't or you forget to, or you just...
Yeah, or you just can't take it. Sometimes because we just know we can't take it. Yeah. And I think there is something about that, like making sure we are robust enough to take feedback without being offended, without reacting, without persecuting, without going into victim. That's hard. And that ultimately, my belief is that, we can teach lots of things to lots of people. I do that for my day job. I do that in my work. But the biggest work any of us will ever do is on ourselves. And is on being in control of ourselves. Like, genuinely, if we get to a point where we trust and back ourselves to hear difficult things, to be brave, to take risks, to show up, even if people don't like you, that's what breeds confidence. Not that you go around saying, I'm the great I am. None of us are. We're all flawed. We're all not the finished article. We all make mistakes. But I think there's something really liberating about owning that and not being afraid to talk about it. It's why I talk about it so much, because I didn't hear this when I was growing up. And I wish someone had, but they didn't. And so part of what I do and want to do now is say some of the unspoken things that are thought by everybody, but often not expressed. And if you have to go first, you have to make yourself vulnerable. And so here I am.
You do, definitely. Rachel, we're sort of nearly out of time. So as a final thing, I wanted to sort of give you a chance if somebody's sort of thinking, yeah, you know what, I might buy this book, or I might consider getting involved in the conversation in some way. What would be your sort of encouragement to somebody who's in that place to say, okay, this book can help you because?
Yeah, this book can help you because if you're willing to do the work, if you recognize even something in your life or your leadership is not quite where it needs to be, and let's be honest, that's all of us, and you're up for the challenge of working on it and you're open to learning, then give it a go. Don't read all of it if you don't need to, but I hope what you'll find is reassurance, lots of reassurance that none of us have got this nailed. Let's just have the conversation. I think if people want to take the conversation further, we talk a lot about this kind of stuff at Pixel. We do lots of coaching in Pixel, coaching style conversations. We talk about this and like this all the time. If people want to come as a guest to our conference, we'd always welcome them. Come and see what that's like. So that's in June and you're very welcome to do that. And then I'm on all the socials. Well, not all. X and LinkedIn, and my email, which I'm very happy to give out, is rjohnson@pixel.org.uk. Please do email. It is me that responds. I don't have like a team of operatives answering my email. I'm nowhere near that diva-ish. Answer my own. So if you do want to email with feedback or with comments or anything like that, then I always love to hear from people.
It's amazing. Well, huge thanks, Rachel, for coming on. Really, really enjoyed this conversation. Got loads out of it. Big thanks to John Catt Educational, obviously, who are the publishers of Rachel's book, supporting this show as well, Teachers Talk Radio. So yeah, big shout out to John Catt. And yeah, if you're interested in if you've only just joined us, you can listen back to this as a podcast or you can find it on YouTube. Obviously, just search Teachers Talk Radio and you'll find the show on that feed. Get involved, leave a review, subscribe, whatever you want to do. Leave a comment as well is always appreciated and great, and all feedback is appreciated.
All feedback is appreciated. It doesn't mean that I will go into a spiral, so people can be well assured I will take it, I will examine it, but it's helpful, isn't it? Feedback can be a gift. So
definitely. So anyway, keep involved in the conversation, everybody. TTR wise, we'll be back tomorrow and every day this week with more shows, so tune into those every evening this week. Just check the website for more information on that. I'll be back this time next week. Got some exciting interviews coming up, which I'm not going to disclose yet, but they're good ones. So yeah, Rachel, huge thanks.
Thank you.
I will check in with you again soon. Thanks everyone. Thanks for joining in.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.